Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is WireDogSec, back with another video for you guys. We are once again inside of TryHackMe. This is the Cybersecurity 101 learning path. This is the Offensive Security Tooling module, and this is the Gobuster, the basics room. This room focuses on an introduction to Gobuster, an offensive security tool used for enumeration. Hopefully you're all having an awesome day today and ready to learn something. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Task 1, Introduction. This room focuses on the offensive security tool Gobuster, often used for reconnaissance. We will explore how this tool can enumerate web directories, subdomains, and virtual hosts. This room will follow a hands-on approach where you can follow along with the commands, explain, and execute them yourself to see the results, learning objectives, understanding the basics of enumeration, how to use Gobuster to enumerate web directories and files, how to use Gobuster to enumerate subdomains, how to use Gobuster to enumerate virtual hosts, how to use a word list. All right, so I'm ready to learn about Gobuster. Task number 2, environment and setup. Says for this room, we will use an Ubuntu 20.04 VM acting as a web server. This web server hosts multiple subdomains. In vhost, the web server also has two content management systems, also known as CMS, installed. These are WordPress and Joomla. Throughout this room, we will be using the attack box where Gobuster is already installed to enumerate the web server directories and subdomains. However, if you prefer to use your own machine instead of attack box, you must be connected to the TryHackMe VPN and have Gobuster installed. You can find the installation instructions for Gobuster on your own machine in the official Gobuster GitHub repository. So start machine, start attack box, which I already have fired up here. Important, we work in a local network with a DNS server on the web server. To ensure we can resolve the domains used throughout this room, you need to change the etc systemd resolved.conf file, open up the terminal in the attack box, all right, and answer the following. So let's go ahead and do that here. And let me just make this a little bit bigger. Okay. So let's go ahead and see what they're doing here. Sudo nano etc system. Okay. And let's go ahead and follow along and edit this file. Okay, now let's go ahead and do cat to double check our work here. All right, looks like it's good to go. And let's see. I assigned the IP address to DNS variable and I resolve.conf file, started the service. Okay. Task number 3, Gobuster introduction. Says Gobuster is an open source defensive tool written in Golang. It enumerates web directories, DNS subdomains, vhosts, Amazon S3 buckets, and Google Cloud Storage by brute force using specific word list and handling the incoming responses. Many security professionals use this tool for penetration testing, bug bounty hunting, and cybersecurity assessments. Looking at the phases of ethical hacking, we can place Gobuster between the reconnaissance and scanning phases. Before exploring Gobuster, let's briefly discuss the concepts of enumeration and brute force. Enumeration is the act of listing all the available resources, whether they are accessible or not. For example, Gobuster enumerates web directories. Brute force is the act of trying every possibility until a match is found. It is like having 10 keys and trying them all on a lock until one fits. Gobuster uses word lists for this purpose. Gobuster overview. Gobuster is included by default in distributions like Kali Linux. Let's start by looking at Gobuster's help page. This help page gives us a good overview of its functionalities and options. Enter the following command: Gobuster-help. You should get the help page for the Gobuster tool as shown below. So let's go ahead and clear all this stuff out. And then Gobuster-help. There we go. We have the help page here. It says the help page contains multiple sections. Use it to show these syntax on how to use the commands. Available commands. Multiple commands are available to aid us in enumerating directories, files, DNS domains, etc., etc. Throughout this room, we will focus on the dir, DNS, and vhost commands. We will cover each of them in the following task flags. These are specific options we can configure to customize our commands. Let's look at the flags we will often use throughout this room. You got -t or dash threads. So you got the short flag, long flag, and description. This flag configures the number of threads to use for the scan. Each of these threads sends out requests with a slight delay. The default number of threads is 10. This number may be slow when using large word lists. You can also increase or decrease the number of threads depending on the available system resources, -w or dash word list. This flag configures a word list to use for iterating. Each word list entry is attached to the URL you include in the command -delay. This flag defines the amount of time to wait between sending requests. Some web servers include mechanisms to detect enumeration by looking at how many requests are received in a certain period of time. We can increase the delay between subsequent requests to make it look like normal web traffic. --debug. This flag helps us to troubleshoot our command, gives unexpected errors, -o or dash output. This flag writes the enumeration results to a file we choose. Example. Let's look at an example of how we would use these commands and flags together to enumerate a web directory. You have Gobuster dir -u for the URL, and inside these double quotes you have the URL, -w, then the location of the word list you're going to use, then -t for the threads, 64. So as I just explained here, dir indicates that we will use the directory in file enumeration mode. -u tells Gobuster that the target URL is the following. -w directs Gobuster to use the small.txt word list to brute force the web directories. Gobuster will use each entry in the word list to form a new URL and send a GET request to that URL. If the first entry of the word list were images, Gobuster would send a GET request to /images of the URL. -t64 sets the number of threads Gobuster will use to 64. This improves the performance drastically. Now that we have a quick overview of Gobuster, let's explore the different modes and their use cases in the following tasks. Now, I would be careful with these threads, how fast you're firing off these tools, because sometimes you may be uh, tipping over servers or causing a disruption. So just be cautious of how many threads you set or how fast you make any tool run. What flag to use? Uh, what flag do we use to specify the URL? Well, that's going to be a -u. What command do we use for the subdomain enumeration mode? Well, that's DNS. So if you go and take a look here, DNS uses DNS subdomain enumeration mode. And task number 4, use case, directory, and file enumeration. Gobuster has a dir mode, allowing users to enumerate website directories and their files. This mode is useful when you are performing a penetration test and would like to see what the directory structure of a website is and what files it contains. Often, directory structures of websites and web apps follow a particular convention, making them susceptible to brute force using word lists. For example, the directory structure on the web server using WordPress looks something like this. So they did a tree -L3-D. So you got dot HTML WordPress, and you have the following under this WordPress here. Gobuster is powerful because it allows you to scan the website and return these stats codes. These stats codes immediately tell you if an outsider or outside user can request that directory or not. Help. If you want a complete overview of what the Gobuster dir command can offer, you can look at the help page. Seeing the extensive help page for the dir command can somewhat be intimidating, so we will focus on the most essential flags in this room. Type the following command to display the help. So let's go ahead and clear all this out and follow along. So Gobuster dir -help. Okay, there you go. As you can see, there's a lot of information here to take a look at. Many flags are used to fine-tune the Gobuster dir command. It is out of scope to go over each one of them, but in the table below, we have listed the flags that cover most of the scenarios. So you have the flag, long flag, and description. -c or dash cookies. This flag configures a cookie to pass along each request, such as a session ID -x extensions. This flag specifies which file extensions you want to scan for. Examples would be .php, .js, dash capital H dash dash headers. This flag configures an entire header to pass along with each request dash K or dash dash no dash TLS dash validation. This flag skips the process that checks the certificate when HTTPS is used. It often happens for CTF events for test rooms like the ones on THM. A self-signed certificate is used. This causes an error during the TLS check, so that's important to remember this one. Dash N or dash dash no status, you can set this flag when you don't want to see status codes of each response. This helps keep the output on the screen clear. All right, so we got dash P for our password, dash S, V, U, and R. So be sure to read through the rest of these here and understand what they're talking about. How to use dir mode. To run Gobuster in dir mode, use the following command format. So we got Gobuster dir-u for the URL, then the word list. Notice that the command also includes the flags -u and -w in addition to the dir keyword. These two flags are required for the Gobuster directory enumeration to work. Let us look at a practical example of how to enumerate directories and files with Gobuster dir mode. So you got Gobuster dir-u, then you have the URL, word list, and you have a -r there. Says this command scans all directories located at example.html or THM using the word list directory list 2.3 medium text. Let's take a closer look at each part of the command. So you got Gobuster dir, configure Gobuster to use the directory and file enumeration mode. -u is to target the URL. All right, so the URL above is using the root web directory. For example, in a typical Apache installation on Linux, this is the var www HTML. So if you have a resources directory and want to enumerate that directory, you'd set the URL as the following here. So www.example.thm/resources. You can also think of this like example.thm path to folder. The URL must contain the protocol used, in this case HTTP. This is important and required. If you pass the wrong protocol, the scan will fail. In the host part of the URL, you can either fill in the IP or the host name. However, it is important to mention that when using the IP, you may target a different website than intended. A web server can host multiple websites using one IP. This technique is also called virtual hosting. Use the host name if you want to be sure. Gobuster does not enumerate recursively, so if the results show a directory path you are interested in, you'll have to enumerate that specific directory. And it says -w, right, word list configures to Gobuster to use that following word list to enumerate each entry of the word list dependent to the configured URL. -r configures to Gobuster to follow the redirect responses received from the sent request. If a status code 301 was received, Gobuster will navigate to the redirect URL that is included in the response. Let's look at a second example where we use -x flag to specify what type of files we want to enumerate. So you got Gobuster dir -u URL word list -x. Then they're looking for .php and .js files extensions. Okay, this command will look for directories located at example.thm using the word list here. In addition to directory listing, this command also lists all the files that have a .php or .js extension. Awesome. Which flag do we have to add to our command to skip the TLS verification and should the long notation? Well, as we saw earlier, that's the no TLS validation flag, right? So if you go back up here, you can see that here, or this -k for the short one. And next one was enumerate the directories of offensive tools.thm. What directory catches your attention? And then we have continue enumerating the directory found in question 2. You will find an interesting file there with a .js extension. What is the flag found there? So go ahead and try that out and then check out the video to follow along. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look here. And so we need to enumerate this directory. So Gobuster, and then it was dir, and then the URL in quotes. So I'm going to just copy and paste this over like so. And I believe that is it. So let's go ahead and, oh, we need to use a word list. So let's just use the same one they're doing here. Okay. All right, let's see what it does. All right, not sure how long this is going to take, but let's go ahead and I guess skip forward. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Be sure to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Once you subscribe, be sure to hit that notification bell. All right, so you know every time I post a new video. As you can see here, most people that view my videos, view my channel, are not subscribed. Now, if you do subscribe, it will help me get into the YouTube algorithm so that we can continue to grow our glorious community here. As always, thank you all for taking the time to watch. Have a nice day and enjoy the video. Okay, let's take a look here. Now, I went back and just modified this a little bit. I added the thread 64 and then this dash R there for the redirects. And this could take a while. I went ahead and just killed it after letting it run for a little bit. But if you go through, you can see that there's a secret directory that you want to take a look at. Now, ideally, in the real world, obviously, you're going to let the scan finish all the way through, but just for the sake of time and for this room, we're going to take a look at the secret one. Okay, and then my second one that I ran, so we want to dig a little bit deeper since it doesn't do recursive by itself, so you have to manually launch it against that secret directory, as you can see there. And then we're also looking for a file extension, so we need to put this dash x in there and this .js, so that's what we're looking for. Let it run for a little bit, and you'll see this flag .js looks of interest. All right, so once you find that, you can either navigate to it via the web browser, or you can just do what I did. I just did the curl command on it to pull down the contents, and there's the flag. So let's continue to task number 5, use case subdomain enumeration. The next mode we'll focus on is the DNS mode. This mode allows Gobuster to brute force subdomains during a penetration test. Checking the subdomains of your target's top domain is essential. Just because something is patched in the regular domain, it doesn't mean it is also patched in the subdomain. An opportunity to exploit a vulnerability in one of these subdomains may exist. For example, if TryHackMe owns TryHackMe.thm and mobile.tryhackme.thm, there may be a vulnerability in mobile.trackme.thm that is not present in tryhackme.thm. That is why it is important to search for domains as or subdomains as well. And that's where proper reconnaissance comes into play for penetration tests and also like bug bounty. Okay, you try to get as much attack surface as you can. So find as many things as you can so you can poke and prod around on them. Help. If you want a complete overview of what the Gobuster DNS command can offer, you can have a look at the help page. Seeing the extensive help page for the DNS command can be intimidating, so we'll focus on the most important flags in this room. Type the following command to display the help. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Clear all this stuff out of here. So Gobuster DNS and help. All right, so we have the same information here. We have a bunch of stuff that gets pulled up here. The DNS mode offers fewer flags than the dir mode, but these are more than enough to cover most DNS subdomain enumeration scenarios. Let's have a look at some of the commonly used flags. So you have dash C or dash dash show CNAME. Show CNAME records cannot be used with the dash I flag. Dash I is dash dash show IPS, including this flag shows IP addresses that the domain and subdomains resolve to -R or dash resolver. This flag configures a custom DNS server to use for resolving -D for or dash domain. This flag configures the domain you want to enumerate. How to use the DNS mode. To run Gobuster in DNS mode, you can use the following syntax. So Gobuster DNS -D example.thm -W, which is the word list, okay? It works similar to what we just saw with the dir. Notice that the command also includes the flags -D and -W in addition to the DNS keyword. These two flags are required for Gobuster subdomain enumeration to work. Let's look at an example of how to enumerate subdomains with Gobuster DNS mode. So Gobuster DNS -D, then the domain -W, then the location of the word list you're going to be using. Gobuster DNS enumerates the subdomains on the configured domain -D, and then the domain.thm sets the target to example.thm domain. Then -W, of course, is the location of your word list you're going to be using. All right. It says Gobuster uses each entry of this list to construct a new DNS query. If the first entry of this is all, the query would be all.example.thm, right? So it's going to be that subdomain as it stated above. Go ahead and enter the following command yourself. You should get the following output. So I'm just going to copy and paste this over. All right, so let's go ahead and clear all this out. paste. There we go. All right, so we have the same results. Oh, we should get the same result whenever this finishes. And looks good. It says apart from the DNS keyword and the -w flag, which shorthand flag is required for the command to work? Remember, you need -d or domain, right? So you have to specify that domain as it's stated up above here. Okay. And the next question says use the commands learned in this task. How many subdomains are configured for the offensivetools.thm domain? So go ahead and try to figure that out yourself. Then come back to the video and we will continue on. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look here. Clear all this out. And we're going to use the same word list. And we're going to change the domain we're targeting. Okay, so let's delete all this stuff out of here. Okay, and we need to target this offensive tools.thm. Okay, fire that off and then let it run for a little bit and see if anything comes back. But as you can see here, it's going to be 4, right? So whenever this finishes, this should be the 4 that you should be seeing on your end as well. All right, so for the sake of time, we're going to actually it might finish by the time we get done reading task number 6 here. And it did finish. Awesome. Cool. So that's that one. As you can see, these tools can be, or this Gobuster tool and its many different flags and options can be of use. Task number 6, use case, vhost enumeration. The last and final mode we'll focus on is the vhost mode. This mode allows Gobuster to brute force virtual hosts. Virtual hosts are different websites on the same machine. Sometimes they will look like subdomains, but don't be deceived. Virtual hosts are IP based and are running on the same server. Subdomains are set up in DNS. The difference between vhost and DNS mode is in the way Gobuster scans. So vhost mode will navigate to the URL created by combining the configured hostname -u flag with an entry of the word list. DNS mode will do a DNS lookup to the FQDN created by combining the configure domain name -d flag with an entry of a word list help. If you want a complete overview of what Gobuster vhost command can offer, you can have a look at the help page. All right, so it's basically the same thing we've been doing. Okay, so you're going to use help on any of these different features of Gobuster, okay, to figure out some more information about how to use that particular feature of it. All right, so here's the help page. This is what it looks like, all kinds of information here. And it says the vhost mode offers flags similar to those of the dir mode. Let's have a look at some of the commonly used flags. So we got short, long, and description. -u or -URL specifies base URL, target domain. For brute forcing virtual host names, --append -domain appends the base domain to each word in the word list. Example would be word.example.com. -m or --method specifies the HTTP method to be used for requests. Examples would be get and post. -domain appends a domain to each word list entry to form a valid hostname useful if not provided explicitly. And you can see the rest here, exclude length and follow redirect. Okay, so be sure to read those. How to use vhost mode. To run Gobuster in vhost mode, it's similar to what we've just been looking at. Okay, vhost -u URL word list. Okay, notice that the command also includes the flags -u and -w in addition to the vhost keyword. These two flags are required for Gobuster vhost enumeration to work. Let's take a look at a practical example of how to enumerate virtual hosts using Gobuster vhost mode. So they have Gobuster vhost -u HTTP and then the IP address --domain. All right, and there's the word lists, append, domain exclude length 250 to 320, and this is what they got back for the results. All right, since you will notice that this command is much more complex than the base command syntax, it contains many more configured flags. This will often be the case in a realistic test, depending on how the infrastructure of the domain to test has been set up. In our case, we don't have a fully set up DNS infrastructure. This requires us to give in extra flags like --domain and --append -domain. We need to look at the web request Gobuster sends to understand better how these flags work. Below, you can see a basic GET request from www.example.thm. So here's the GET request. It looks like, all right, Gobuster will send multiple requests each time, changing the host part of the request, the value of host. And the example is www.example.thm. We can break this down into 3 parts. www. This is the subdomain. This is the part of the part that Gobuster will fill in with each entry of the configure word list. Dot example. This is the second level domain. You can configure this with the dash dash domain flag. This needs to be configured together with the top level domain. Dot thm. This is the top level domain. You can configure the flag with the dash dash domain flag. This needs to be configured together with the second level domain. Now that we know how Gobuster sends its request, let's break down the command and examine each flag more closely. You have Gobuster vhost instructs Gobuster to enumerate virtual host, dash u, and then the URL with the IP address in there. Sets the URL to browse to the IP address. Dash w, of course, is the word list location. Configures Gobuster to use this word list. Appends each entry to the word in the word list to the configured domain. If no domain is explicitly configured with the dash dash domain flag, Gobuster will extract it from the URL. Example would be test.example.thm, help.example.thm, etc. If any subdomains are found, Gobuster will report them to you in the terminal. Dash dash domain example.thm sets the top and second level domains and the host name. Part of the request to example.thm dash dash append domain appends the configured domain to each entry in the word list. If the flag is not configured, the set host name would be www, blog, etc. This will cause the command to work incorrectly and display false positives. Dash dash exclude length filters the responses we get from the sent request. With this flag, we can filter out the false positives. If you run the command without this flag, you will notice you will get a lot of false positives like found, um, Orion.example.thm, status 404, size 279, or found, yada yada yada. These false positives typically have a similar response size, so we can use this to filter out most of the false positives. We expect to get a 200 OK response back to have a true positive. However, there are, however, exceptions, but it is not in the scope of this room to go deeper into those. All right, use the commands learned in this task to answer the following question. How many vhosts on offensive tools.thm domain reply with a status code 200? So go ahead and figure that out yourself. If you get stuck or anything, we'll continue on with the video. All right, let's go ahead and take a look here. We have Gobuster vhost-u. Here's the URL we're targeting, 23 or 231.15 dash dash domain, which is going to be offensive tools.thm. Here's our word list, same one they used in the example task. And we have this append domain. We have threads here at 100, so fire this off. As you can see, there's a ton of 404 errors, and we don't want to see that stuff in here. So you can either wait till this finishes and then go back and try to count and track the 200, or you can try to filter out these sizes of these false positives as I showed up here using, what was it? Yeah, this exclude length, right? Or what I'm going to do is clear this out, okay? And all I did was pipe this into grep command. Inside double quotes here, status, colon 200. That's what I want to grep on. So go ahead and fire this off again, and we can see the results here. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, these two are the same, so that's going to be 4 results back for 200 status code. All right, so that's it for that task. And then task number 7, conclusion. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. This room taught us about the offensive tool, Gobuster. This tool enumerates directories, files, DNS, subdomains, and virtual hosts. We have covered 3 different modes of the Gobuster tool. DNS mode enumerates DNS subdomains. Dir mode enumerates directories. vhost mode enumerates virtual hosts. For each mode, we covered the required flags to configure an additional optional flags that fine-tune the desired results. We have highlighted the difference between virtual hosts and subdomains and the way Gobuster scans for these. DNS mode uses the DNS services to scan for subdomains using the configured domain and word list. vhost mode sends web requests using the configured URL and word list. At the end of each task, we directly applied the skills we had learned through hands-on exercises. On to the next challenge. All right, now for GoBuster, I don't think I've used this in the real world, but I'm pretty sure I've used this on like CTFs and stuff like that. I use different tools for like bug bounty reconnaissance and other things. All right, GoBuster, I'm sure it can get the job done by like other tools out there. You know, you have FFUF or FFUF. You know, there's other ones out there as well. Forex Buster can be an alternative as well if you want to do like CTFs with that tool. Anyway, this wraps up the video. If you enjoyed the video, found it educational of value, be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Hit with that notification bell so you know every time I upload a video or post to the channel. Comment below your thoughts and opinions. Share the video out. all that good stuff. As always, thank you all for taking the time to watch my video. Check the description box for any additional resources you may find of interest. As always, thank you for watching my video. Have a nice day, and I will see you later.